to see us.
Israel and Palestine. Part of the reason why Kenya did not enjoin in the proceedings at the International Court of Justice initiated by South Africa and a couple of other countries is because it is our very strong view that this is not a matter that can be litigated. There is no court that can pronounce itself substantively on the complex challenges that that are playing out in that region of the world. And so the view that we continue to hold is that ultimately there has to be a negotiated settlement, and to our minds there can be no better negotiated settlement than a two-state solution. By anchoring our position as a country on solid principles of international law, we don't always have to keep changing our position. And so whether in the case of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or whether on the matter of Somalia, Somaliland, and Ethiopia, our position really is anchored on the fact that territorial integrity is sacrosanct. And whether it's in Europe, in the Americas, or in Africa, that is a sacrosanct principle. And so we are able to default to that position and are able then to engage with our neighbors on that basis. Your Excellencies, on the matter of Haiti, indeed, of course, the situation continues to be perilous on the ground, uncertain. As a matter of fact, we don't actually know what the position is at this present moment. But suffice it to say that the Prime Minister was here. The fact that he was able to travel to UNAIR and to engage with the Kenya government is testament really to just the depth of the need on the ground and the sense that the multinational security support mission is so critical to them. I want to assure that on the part of the Kenyan government, arising from the decision of the High Court, which basically found faults with the initial approach of the government, through the route initially taken through the Security Council, as well as Parliament. The court found that was not the correct route, and found that that was pretty unconstitutional. But then the court provided an alternative, which was that it was possible to enter into a bilateral reciprocal agreement with Haiti, by which the two countries can be able to provide reciprocal support to each other. So those are the frameworks, Excellencies, we've been working with and on. There has been meetings here in Nairobi of a technical nature. There have been meetings in the US of a technical nature. The concepts of operations have been agreed upon. The rules of engagement have been agreed upon. The treatment of the deployment in terms of national laws have been agreed upon. So there's a great deal that has been agreed upon.
The issue of peace and security cooperation. The evolving global peace and security problems have compounded the challenges of our time in Africa. Statistically, as at the end of 2023, around September, over 37 million people had been forcibly displaced in Africa. 6 countries accounted for 64% of forced displacements on the continent. And as at September 2023, 121 million people are now facing severe acute food insecurity in selected countries in Africa. In the period between February 2019 and February 2024, conflict fatalities from selected African countries had reached 208,000. Let me recognize with appreciation the European Union's role in peace and security and governance cooperation under the EU Peace Facility for African-led peace support operations, amounting to over 600 million euro. As an anchor state in the region, Kenya has sustained an investment in diplomatic efforts to find lasting peace in a myriad of situations within and beyond the region. Although some of the processes have yielded undeniable successes, challenges remain. I therefore strongly reiterate our call for partnerships with the European Union towards confidence-building measures and urge more concerted efforts towards sustainable peace, security, and stability in the region. The Kenya-EU partnership will continue to be centered in the search for sustainable peace and security in the larger Eastern and Horn of Africa region. These include DRC, Sudan, and the fight against all forms of terrorism and extremism. Your Excellencies, on the Israel and Gaza conflict, Kenya continues to call for an immediate ceasefire and resumption of dialogue to resolve the difficult issues that underpin the current escalation in Gaza. Kenya stands for a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine problem. On the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Kenya believes in the urgent need for a diplomatic resolution to the ongoing conflict. We call on the parties involved in the conflict to give diplomacy a chance. It is our belief that in these times of transformation and turmoil, we must continue to engage even more to defend the rules-based global order. Kenya continues to engage in global peacekeeping operations by the African Union and the United Nations. To fulfill this commitment, Kenya is honored to assume leadership of the multinational security support mission in Haiti. In this spirit, we pledge to deploy a contingent of 1,000 police officers. If I come back to the region, I also take this opportunity to thank the European Union and its member states in your support towards the African Union Transition Mission, ATMIS, in Somalia, in relation to the restoration of peace, security, and stability in Somalia. Indeed, there has been a great achievement in the resolution of the conflict in Somalia, and we appreciate and thank you for your support. On the Sudan issue, we also wish to note with gratitude that the European Union and France will chair an international humanitarian conference for Sudan and its neighbors at ministerial level around 15th of April in Paris. I commend your efforts in ensuring that there is a flow of humanitarian assistance to the people of Sudan, and we look forward to Kenya's participation at the conference. On South Sudan, we wish to underscore the fact that Kenya has agreed to lead the mediation process to resolve the conflict in the Sudan. This demonstrates our commitment in ensuring that peace and security reigns in the region. I therefore laud the EU in its support towards a peaceful resolution of the conflict and urge you to continue rendering your support, bearing in mind that we would like them to have some good elections later this year. I focused a little bit on all these issues around Africa because we want to just underscore that the crisis is big. We do not want to ignore the global conflicts, but the crisis in Africa is big, and if you're not careful, it could be forgotten. I was at the African Union meeting with the the permanent secretary here and Lemoshire and some of the people in this hall. And they can bear me out that the time accorded to the conflicts in Africa was not proportional to the problem that we are facing. So we are having a situation where Africa itself is not giving attention to African challenges. And that is something that we hope collectively we can start addressing. Let me first of all welcome you most warmly. Our meeting is a clear demonstration of our ambition to promote continued progress in the Kenya and European Union strategic partnership. This will enable us to expand the scope of our cooperation in key areas, including trade and investment, cementing the strong bonds of friendship and cooperation that we have maintained with the European Union. I note with satisfaction that the EU remains Kenya's leading development partner. We now have an opportunity to develop our relationship beyond the donor-recipient paradigm by focusing on the prospects that Kenya presents to the EU. One of the issues that comes up first is the ratification of the Economic Partnership Agreement by the European Parliament. We are cognizant of the ratification of the Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA, by the European Parliament on Thursday, 29th February 2024. It is worth noting that 366 European Parliament lawmakers voted in favor of the EU-Kenya EPA, while 86 members rejected it and 56 others abstained. But that is a big majority by all standards. The ratification is a great achievement towards the implementation of the agreement, which will enhance cooperation in trade and investment. And we want to express our appreciation for all the effort you put in, individually and collectively, to the extent that you facilitated the President of Kenya to address the European Parliament. So we want to express our appreciation for that. On the Kenyan side, I wish to inform that we are fast-tracking the agreement for ratification to pave way for its implementation, to enable the realization of the benefits of the tariff-free and quota-free access for Kenyan exports to the European market. We look forward to broader engagement with you on accelerating delivery of key projects in Kenya, driven by our joint commitments in agriculture and value chains, renewable energy, transportation, digitization, and other areas of cooperation. Our strategic dialogue on political and economic relations will strengthen our bilateral cooperation in areas of shared strategic interests. These include peace and security, trade and business climate, investment and private sector, and climate change, aspects of the climate change agenda. Programs in these areas will support the government's bottom-up economic agenda, that is the better, to improve shared prosperity among Kenyans. The Kenya-European Union midterm review of development cooperation concluded recently will also be instrumental in shaping our next phase of programming and budgeting with the EU. On matters trade and investment, this is a key pillar of our relations, and there are about 10 major issues raised by the EU, and we intend to tackle these systematically, cooperating with you, so that we can address some of the issues around duty exemptions, quality assurance, policy and regulatory changes, and maybe some aspects of double taxation, etc. Your Excellency, I wish to laud the ideal goals of the strategic dialogue, which will continue to deepen the partnership between us, leading to the shared implementation of improved policies and projects, including the global gateway deployment in the country. This will allow us to reap the low-hanging fruits of our cooperation. Our Deputy President attended the inaugural Global Gateway Forum in November 2023, where the EU granted Kenya 11.4 billion Kenya shillings, or close to 72 million euro, to support priority areas of green transition on environmental sustainability and digital inclusion, good governance, as well as peace and stability. Kenya looks forward to strengthening the partnership through the various initiatives of the forum. I therefore appeal to the EU to continue aligning the global capital with SDGs for a sustainable, positive future. And this, I believe, by enhancing Africa's access to global development, we will unlock the continent's vast potential in natural resources, arable land, and vibrant human capital. Let me briefly touch on climate change. Climate change has triggered a myriad of impacts that are increasingly becoming evident, with dire consequences to livelihoods, ecosystems, and the economy, particularly in developing countries. Kenya, amongst other developing countries, contributes least to the carbon emissions, but suffer most, and hence the need to work together to combat the effects of climate change. It is in lieu of this that Kenya is on the forefront of confronting this crisis by hosting the Africa Climate Summit in September 2023. Thank you for your support. The outcomes of the summit have afforded us the opportunity to explore diverse areas of climate mitigation, building lasting resilience and possible avenues for further cooperation, including how we seek new ways of climate financing. We appreciate the pledges made by the EU on partnerships in key projects and programs.